I'm glad you
Yeah.
mentioned, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, like the grind set, Gary Vee
Yeah.
type stuff. Like it's like for Han, I know you haven't read him, but he talks about the burnout society and how there's burnout, and then that's one side of neoliberal our contemporary age, and then the other
Yeah.
side is like anxiety and work and continual like grinding, right? But these two, for him, like he talks about this in The Scent of Time the most, where it's like he doesn't see a dichotomy between the vita activa, the active life, and a lazy life. Like these are just the two sides of the same neoliberal coin, which it actually for
Yeah.
him goes deeper than just capitalism. It's actually a problem of our subjectivity and our experience of time itself. But which I like. So um, so like these like Gary V type grind set people, they're just like this is just how burnout we're in our burned out like tired age. This is just like you popping a bunch of caffeine pills when you're
Yeah.
super tired. Like it's not fundamentally
Yeah.
altering. So like would you say that like what would even a Lacanian way of dealing with like the burnout in society, like what would be the Lacanian response um to modern capitalist life? Because for Han, it's more his is more of a Heideggerian idea of like lingering, learning how to be leisurely, and he doesn't really say authentic, but just like learning how to live a contemplative life, as opposed to like
Yeah.
a life of pursuing continual activity, which ultimately ends in burnout. So like what would a Lacanian take on this be?
I mean, that's a really good question. And like I Lacanian theory is, and this is my emphasis, is like, yeah, there's a lot of great theorists that are like putting Lacanian theory into philosophy, into
Mhm.
critical theory. Obviously Zizek, then you got like a Zupancic, and Adrian Johnson. uh, However, like Lacan is not like a remedy, and his theory shouldn't be taken as
Yeah.
such. However, I think he was definitely very critical of, in a sense, like what's going on with like capitalism. And I don't think it was him. I think there was another like Lacanian scholar that made like the capitalist discourse. I heard this from Todd McGowan, but I'm not sure if he made that, because I know he has that book. Is it Capitalism and
Yeah.
Desire,
Yeah.
which I have not read. I want to read it.
Me either. No.
Most of my stuff that I know from uh, McGowan is going to be from all the lecture series that he has on YouTube and his podcast, Why the Theory.
Mhm.
But like capitalist discourse is ultimately like a master signifier based upon like the fact that, you know, it feeds upon your lack. And in
Mhm.
Zizek, not only with capitalism but neoliberalism, the fact that it emphasizes this hyper individuality, and it appeals to like our, I guess you can say, our default mode of reality of the fact that, you know, we desire and we automatically fantasize, and the ego in early Lacan is made up of resistances, because it is a resistance from the unconscious, but it's also a fantasy functioning machine, and it uses the scene of the fantasy to watch itself as a cinema, as a movie, to continue to live a certain way, a certain way of desiring more. And capitalism seems to do that with a lot of things, from not just, you know, traditional like Marxist analysis of capitalism, like of commodities, but the fact that now the censoring of the individual becomes like a hyper form of a commodity, in which it displays a narrative. So like, even when we notice that it are like, whether people have that like articulation of saying like capitalism is the problem, they see like a problem with what's going on in the world. However, there is this distance from the world because of what Zizek would call like, you know, the cynicism or stuff, or just the
Mhm.
fact that they believe that even when there's stuff going on in the socioeconomic world, that I'm somehow outside of it, and I'm still
Yeah.
gonna continue to live as this free being. But I, all the symbolic or the signifiers that formulate the language of my unconscious are that of capitalist discourse. It is still a master discourse. And what that means is that there's like an overall like signifier that like was responsible for referential meaning in the language. Because I said that as far as for, I mean, he's going to use this the whole time, that he says his famous axiom, the unconscious is structured like a language, right? And
Yeah.
speech is the way that the discourse, is put into fruition. But like the signifiers are going to be like all this network of meaning. And capitalism, you could say, has a certain network of meaning, but it's still based off lack.
Yeah.
Like everybody has something that we don't, and we burn ourselves out. But at the same time, even if you point them like, you're living your life very wrong, or like, you're tiring yourself out doing this, you could try to educate them or do something. But it's the fact that they're so libidinally invested, and it's the problem of understanding like, where the jouissance is at. And as I said, that Lacan, to me at least, is not a remedy. At the same time, I don't have a theory of like how to stop this burnout, or like the problems going on with subjectivity in relation to capitalism. But again, there are other scholars, I think, in the Lacanian realm that are actually trying to, pinpoint this out. But analysis is the way in which we name our desire. So in an individual aspect, I would say like psychoanalysis, as far as the clinical work, I unfortunately don't have the answer to like more bigger, broader socio-economic issues or just social issues.